Um, Looks like another one from the audience. Measure E and the budget seems to be popular tonight. We just talked about how you raise revenues to help the city budget. People are also concerned about cuts that could possibly be made. And the question is, what will you do as a council member to ensure that police and fire departments are safe from these cuts? And specifically, where will the cuts come from? And would you consider privatizing public works or other non-safety functions to protect those departments?
Good question. Making cuts are always difficult, and to be honest about it, I have not read the latest budget. I just got a copy of it to review. Where do you cut? It's when people say you just got to cut. You cannot cut the services that are really needed. We have a city north of us that is a proof of that. You don't want to cut your fire, you don't want to cut your police. I sure don't want to have public services disappear and have garbage problems or sewer problems. And I think sometimes what you got to look at is other departments. Are they all the people necessary? And if all the people are necessary to give the service to the public that the public is paying taxes for, which they deserve, we really need to start working more on the revenue stream. And I think that is something that can be worked on. We really need to look at other areas. One of them would be like the airport. How do we attract more business there at the airport? There's sales tax dollars out there. Definitely, we've talked already about bringing in other businesses to get the sales tax dollars. And yes, the city's attitude has to be very positive of wanting somebody to come in. Side note, real quick, when I came here and bought the dealership, my business license was denied because there was an extension cord attached to the clock. And all I had to do was put in a battery-operated clock. So something like that is foolish. And I think sometimes all of us have to look at it. If we were the other person on the other side of the table, how would we want to be treated? How would we want to be handled? And I think with that can make a difference in revenue too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman.
Especially with my background with the police department, I'd love to be able to sit here and tell you that if we get to where we're facing cuts, we're not going to cut the police or fire department. I just think that would be disingenuous. In round numbers, public safety accounts for about 80% of the general fund. Most of the cutting that has been done thus far came from that other 20%. If we are faced with having to make more cuts, I cannot in good conscience sit here and tell you, well, we're not going to touch public safety, because we may very well have to. Which is not to say you can't continue to provide services through efficiencies, through organizational changes, but if you're thinking that public safety is off the table as far as potential cuts, that's just not the case. The answer is that we, as Mr. Birdsall has just described, is increasing revenue streams. I mean, we can cut and cut and cut. At some point, you can't cut anymore. At some point, you have to cut things you don't want to cut. You avoid that by increasing revenues, by attracting business, by people getting jobs, by people buying things, paying sales tax, by creating demand because they have jobs, they can buy homes, which increases property tax. As you build new businesses, the ground that they're going to put that new building on, that property becomes more value and increases that property tax. That's how you do it. But if you're going to have to make cuts, don't expect it to be pretty. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for Mr. Mann.
Cuts, he's right, cuts aren't pretty. But I commit to you that, and I have throughout my campaign, that we'll work with labor groups to balance the city budget without sacrificing any services that the city has grown to expect. And I make a commitment to Tracy Fire and the police department that we're not going to be cutting their budget. See, I have a few different feelings, and maybe that's because I have 2.5 children. And I'm not going to sacrifice my babies for their safety, and safety is my number one priority. As a young family man and a businessman, whether it be my family or my business is going to be protected, and I need the support of Tracy Fire and Police. It's that clear. Can we make other adjustments to the budget? Absolutely. I think it comes with, and one just more recently made, is the city becoming a little more efficient. Many know Zane Johnson, Director of Finance, his position folded into an HR position. It saved almost $200,000 in city budget. That is an efficiency. And I'll task the city and the staff with becoming more efficient just to eliminate the potential of cuts. Now, the focus needs to be made, and I think the city's done a good job on the cuts, the focus needs to be made on raising the revenue. That's going to be attracting the businesses. Okay? That's going to be attracting new jobs, job producers here in Tracy. The cut word, I don't like that cut word, and it's not going to happen with fire and putting my family at any kind of risk by eliminating or reducing any of the city services from police or fire. Thank you.
Mr. Morello, same question.
Thank you. As I said in my opening statement, knowledge. You have to be very knowledgeable. And yes, we have to maintain our quality of life, which means good police protection, good fire protection. But also, we cannot go out as a city and build things. And what I mean by that is, I'm not against an aquatic center. I'm for it. But the way about that it's going to be built. To maintain an aquatic center, the money is going to come from the general fund. That's how we pay our police and our fire. Things like that affect what our quality of life and can affect our quality of life. So that is why we have to be smart in what we do and how we do it. Now, in regards to what Roger Birdsall said about the Tracy Airport, there is a business out there, and what they do is they sell airplane parts internationally, which is around the world. It's a very good business. We need to help that business to attract other businesses to the airport. I feel that the airport would make a good business center. And what about the runway? 6 feet short. That's really bad. 6 feet short. And nobody knew it? Come on. Where is the oversight? Where is the responsibility? I don't know where it is because I never heard who took responsibility for that. And the contractor did the work because of, in regards to the time, they could not go back to the contractor and have him do it. That is not money well spent, even though FAA grant money was spent. But there was still some city money that was spent on the airport. Got to be very, very careful on what we do and how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Young, same question.
Thank you. That was kind of a long three-part question, but I answered it to the best that I can here. It's mainly focusing on to ensure that our police and our fire are safe, right? That's what we all agree upon. It is very important that all of us feel safe, that we feel safe in our homes, that we feel safe in our neighborhoods, that we feel safe even when our children are at school. Safety is the number one priority here in the city of Tracy. I myself grew up in Compton, California during the 70s, during the time when Bloods and Crips were prevalent and on the high rise. And I determined that when I was a young girl that I was not going to raise my children in that type of community. Even when I attended UC Berkeley, I lived in East Oakland and drove into campus, and I decided even living there, I'm not going to raise my kids here either. And so then when I got married, I moved to Fremont. Fremont was a good neighborhood, but thankfully we moved here later on to Tracy. And part of my decision for choosing Tracy over Antioch, even though Antioch had good housing opportunities as well, was the safety issue. And I'm here because Tracy is a safe town, and we want to protect that at all costs. At the same time, as Councilman Mike Maceo said, it's 80% of the general fund. And so what we can do is to streamline, as we said earlier, to streamline our budget, to streamline our processes, all the things that we can look at to see what can be cut. And I just can't go with a big knife and just start cutting anything, but we need to see what affects what, because everything is connected. But one thing that we can do, actually a couple things that we can do to protect our police and safety is volunteerism, community volunteerism, where you can get involved with the CERT teams, the VIPs, neighborhood watches, so that you can do some things to afford the police to just do their job. When the people were graffitiing our park and tagging all the time, my husband and our next door neighbor went out every day and cleaned those park benches and insisted that this is our neighborhood, you're not going to take over, and they eventually left. So we can do some things ourselves. And lastly, preventative. The police would not have to work so hard if we invest into our youth and do mentor programs so that we can reduce the crime of the future. Thank you.
Thank you.